Welcome to our inaugural Showcase Industry Expo. And for some of you, it's the first time you've been in here. Lots of you would have been milling around the exhibiting stalls or just come in to hear from some of our speakers this afternoon. Those of you that were at lunch before, I hope you didn't consume too much wine and enjoyed your connections with the other South Australian businesses. For those of you watching via Zoom, we appreciate with COVID limitations of numbers you're allowed in the room, even in a room the size of this. Thank you for watching online. This is because I always forget to introduce myself. So, Steve Tester, the CEO and co-founder of Showcase SA. In the past 20 months since we set up when Brand SA closed, we've connected over 5,000 businesses, whether you're small, medium, large, government. We connect and create opportunities and highlight opportunities within various and multiple industries. Most businesses work in their particular field and they are insulated in their bubble and don't realise opportunities in different industries. Hence today we'll hear from a technology perspective, but as you'll hear, they sit across multiple facets of business, not just one. Oh, going the wrong way. A special thank you to, as much as we stepped in to run, and in November last year when we rang the showgrounds to tell them we wanted to run an expo, well, first of all, no one answered because no one worked here then. But when they did get back to us, the fact that we've got 1,500 businesses coming through the doors today between 8:30 a.m. and 4, I think they've done quite well to accommodate us. But a special thank you to the Office of Industry Advocate, the Department of Trade and Investment, and our last-minute supporter that jumped in on Friday last week, Ventia, the Aspen Group, Ikigai Capital, and BGIS, who were good enough to pay for all the coffees, which I think they probably didn't realise it's going to cost them a fortune in coffees today. A few of you might see this little sign on your chairs. When you're not used to enough QR codes scattered around the place, we've got a little bit of augmented reality. So if you download their app, you can hold it up to your phone and it allows you to click on to rewatch today's briefings. And funny enough, there's a little figurine of me starts talking as well. So you really can't get away from me. But there's also the opportunity, there's a $3,000 video package that you can go in the draw for from the team from Oodle, who are filming here today. I'm just going to play the video from Ventia, who's one of our sponsors today. So thank you, Ventia. And I know what you're all thinking. Why isn't my video of my business up there on the screen? Well, it can. It's called sponsorship, people. We'll happily take it. We are completely independent. We are not a government organisation. We will happily promote you. Speaking of which, today's a sort of supersized Showcase SA event. The majority of what we do is bringing together businesses across lunches, breakfasts, behind the scenes tours, and a special thank you to Loftus. John Stronner can't be here today, but his team is here. Justin, there you are. John's just having a knee operation and didn't think he could hobble through the Expo today. Statewide Super has been a big founding supporter of Showcase, and the team from Optus and Wojtek, Declan, I really appreciate your support, thank you. These organisations part with hard-earned cash out of their own pocket to support us, which gets their message out to other similar-minded South Australian businesses. I've tried to play this video all day and managed to play everyone else's videos. So just as a snapshot, and if you've heard it before, you haven't because I forgot to do it all day. We do industry briefings. We do highlight opportunities across all industries, not just your own. And we bring together some of the inspiring minds of South Australia and Christopher Pine, who did our budget briefing. But we get people like Maggie Beer giving an insights into her journey. And coming up, we've got the Young Australian of the Year is Will Marshall and Eloise Hall, and a behind the scenes at RM Williams and a CEO luncheon at RM Williams. So for any of you who know who's financially connected into that, to bring it back into Australian hands, that's quite an exciting opportunity. I know expos aren't the most exciting of things, but we do have a bit of a motto that doing business doesn't have to be boring. Hence the wine at lunch. A little snapshot of a cross-section of our members, big, small, medium. Big businesses don't operate without small businesses in South Australia, so we bring them together. Obviously, I'll be attending all the public speaking training next week. Business branding as masterclasses, and Spark at Whitmore Square for networking drinks. Our next industry topic is agribusiness, which we've teamed up with a team from Ferguson, Australia, to have a long table lobster lunch at the National Wine Centre. So that'll bring out people. Another great passion of ours is supporting the South Australian wine industry. We do have another expo, slightly different to this one today. 200 wine varietals, 3-hour segments due to COVID, but National Wine Centre, 16th and 17th of May. Bring your colleagues, bring your friends, come along, try the wine. If you like it, scan yet another QR code and the wine will get delivered to your door, so you don't have to carry anything. And you feel good and merry while supporting the wine industry. QR codes. We've put on today to extend the reach of opportunities for other businesses. For those of you that aren't Showcase SA members and appreciate attending today, if you actually want to sit down and be connected properly on a more maybe 1 to 20 basis across lunches, breakfasts, unique opportunities, we'd welcome you to come on board as members. I think let's get started. So, without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the stage Andrew from BAE Systems and Dr. David Haley from Miriota, also Antonio Pistelli from Sage Automation, and also Matthew Pearson from Fleet Space. Guys, do you want to... So you're quite welcome to sit. So Andrew is the Hunter Frigate Principal Technologist working for BAE Systems Maritime Australia, with 15 years experience in research and development environments, working to uplift new technologies and transition into products. Andrew's current role is working towards uplifting technology base of the Osborne shipyard, and in future the technologies incorporated in the Hunter-class frigates themselves. Andrew, over to you.
No worries. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. So, Principal Technologist, the Chief Technologist of BAE Systems is actually my boss's boss's boss, so there's a few more layers there, but thank you for the promotion, which is good. Before I start, can I just get a show of hands? Who here would be able to say that they can understand intellectual property? Just show of hands if you think you really know what intellectual property is all about. Yeah? Now, keep your hand up if you really understand how to protect your intellectual property and actually know that intellectual property and the technology that's embedded within it is actually how you gain competitive advantage in what you do. So one of the things that we're doing at BAE Systems at the moment is actually looking at technology as a differentiator to be able to be more capable in our industry. So our industry is defence, and there's actually a specific reason why we're talking into the technology section today, not into the defence section. So what we're looking at in terms of the innovation program within Hunter, which was where I report into the business, we actually are attached to this program that's all about continuous naval shipbuilding, and there's 9 anti-submarine warfare frigates that we're building. But our group, looking at specifically the innovation program, is actually to look at the technology that's embedded within both our shipyard, our workforce, the ships themselves, as well as the supply chain around us. So if we look at the innovation program on a page of what we do, what our team is, we've got a team of about 30 people. We're situated down in the Tonsley facility on South Road. The identity of our group is actually to be able to conduct innovation activities, which is all sorts of different things that are within our remit, for the intent to be able to reduce risk in technologies and to be able to accelerate those technologies to create value for our program. What that actually means is that we're actually going out there and searching for specific technology differentiators that will actually allow us to have competitive advantage both for our business as well as for our nation as a whole. And what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to pick up both the activities that we're doing, but also across the entire market sector of maritime shipbuilding in Australia, defence more broadly, advanced manufacturing more broadly, and the Australian nation at the top level. So in terms of the innovation activities that we're actually doing, we do technology forecasting, which actually allows us to look out sort of 5 years, 20 years into the future to understand what the future can hold. We conduct research and technology activities, which is where we first investigate a piece of technology when it comes in. We also conduct what's called innovation challenges. And so what the innovation challenges are is it's a way for us as a technology group to reach out through the ICN portal, where if you look up on Hunter Frigate Program ICN portal, you'll be able to see all the procurement packages from the frigate program, but you can also see the technology challenges that we've actually put up from the innovation program. That's where we can actually go out and actually ask the broader supply chain around us for all their good ideas to see whether we could pick them up and bring them into the program. So we've had 2 innovation challenges so far, one on track and trace technologies associated with RFID. Where are all of my assets in a thing like a shipyard? Where are all my products? Can I associate specific information to them? And this is where what we're trying to do with the innovation program is actually bring in a lot of those sort of adjacent technologies from adjacent industries. So if I say, where are all of my assets? I'm hoping that a lot of you in the audience will actually think, yeah, that's a problem that I've got as well. And even though it's not shipbuilding, actually that's where what we're trying to do is we're trying to aggregate the technology together from a lot of different enterprises and a lot of different industries to actually be able to create value for ourselves and for the nation around us. The final thing that we do is actually participate both in innovation events like today, so congratulations on setting up today. We also run some of our own innovation events as well, which are much more technology focused for the shipbuilding and shipyard for us. With the intent that actually out the back end of our innovation program, we've got proof of concepts that you can actually use to say, all right, well, that technology was proven to be of value. This is how much it costs. This is the return on investment. This is how we would certify it either into the shipyard or into the ship, with the intent that actually we can accelerate things as well as conduct the risk reduction such that we can then put that forwards as a viable business case into the program. And particularly with where we are in the program and actually what our objectives are, we're actually specifically trying to pick up to do a national approach both in South Australia as well as across Australia, which also includes not just industry supply, but it also includes academia and research organisations around us. So some of the questions that might be asked is, well, what are you researching? So the way that we've actually segmented up our research program is we've actually split the technology portfolio into research streams. So you can see there on the screen, we've the 5 research streams that we've split into is Stream 1, which is about shipyard capabilities, which is all of the things to do with our digital shipbuilding for productivity, quality and safety. Stream 2 is about shipbuild technologies, which is where we're doing research into manufacturing technologies, things like additive manufacturing, things like different welding technologies, things like coatings, those sorts of things. Stream 3 is about platform and combat system technologies, where we're talking about things like propulsion motors, HVAC, chilled water units, combat system sensors and effectors. There's all sorts of things in there. Stream 4 is about whole ship engineering. How do you bring all this together actually into a ship? Lots of things to do with naval architecture and aspects of the ship as a combat vessel. And Stream 5 is actually about sustainment technologies. So we've heard a few people today talk about the concept of sustainment, which is actually, as we transition these ships across into service, there's a lot of technology that can be used to actually more effectively manage these assets as they're actually put into service. But there's a lot that we actually need to do during the build program now, such that when we actually hand it over into the sustainment program that follows on after acquisition, that actually there's a good technology baseline for what we're looking at in terms of actually how we hand over the ship. And so that's where specifically the technologies that are actually embedded in the way we build the ship, the way we record the information out of the ship, and actually how the ship is designed and put together is actually going to set ourselves up for either success or failure in the future as a nation with all these different types of capabilities. Lofty goals, but really, how do you make it more tangible? So really what we're doing at the moment is we actually have established a research facility where we're doing a lot of our work down in Tonsley at the Innovation District down there on South Road. So what you can see here is effectively a shot of our primary semi-industrial research facility. So there's about 20 different IoT research activities that we're doing here in here at the moment. And all of these activities are primarily aligned into that Stream 1 digital shipbuilding and productivity, quality, safety. It's all those sorts of aspects is what we're looking at in terms of things like automation and industrial Internet of Things is all happening down in Line 0 at the moment. What we're looking at now is that actually as the program actually transitions across into the prototyping with an intent to transition into cut steel for Ship 1 next year, we're actually looking at all the technologies shifting out of Tonsley as a research environment where we actually can bring collaborative organisations and technologies into here to act as a testing ground that we can then pick the technologies up and then take it across into the shipyard. We're also starting to look at, right, well, if some of our research actually goes across into the other streams, so how much of those digital shipbuilding technologies can be brought across into digital sustainment, but also we can start looking at, for example, things like, all right, well, if we look at different coatings or if we look at different manufacturing techniques, how do we actually start to incorporate that into the research that we're doing down at Tonsley as well? So we're using Tonsley as a risk reduction site, throwing a whole lot of different technologies to see which ones actually return value, which ones stick, which ones actually give us that competitive advantage in a program where we're trying to actually create effectively a Navy capability for the country in the Hunter Frigate program. Thank you.
BAE Systems, your one-stop shop, hey? Thanks for that. Coming up next is Dr. David Haley. He's the co-founder and chief technology officer at Mariota. the global leader in low-cost, low-power, secure direct-to-orbit satellite connectivity for the Internet of Things. David is an inventor and entrepreneur with extensive prior startup experience, growing Mariotta's world-class patent portfolio and translating deep tech into product, which is probably all about that intellectual property you were mentioning. So over to you, David.
Thank you. Most of you would be familiar with this beautiful landscape from the country that we're lucky enough to live in. And many of you may have also experienced taking a photograph of it and then going to share it with your friends and not having any internet connectivity. That problem is not limited to the internet for humans. It's actually inhibiting the rollout of the Internet of Things as well. And something as simple as collecting the information of a water tank level actually isn't that simple. It requires hundreds of kilometres of driving by the farmer to go around and manually check tanks. This problem is also not limited to Australia. In fact, 90% of the Earth's surface is lacking IoT connectivity. And this is a problem that Mariotta has solved by providing direct-to-satellite, direct-to-orbit connectivity, enabling devices and products to be deployed anywhere on the surface of the Earth and to provide that communication. And it's a really exciting time for us now, having our network active for a number of years in Australia to be expanding into the United States and Canada. Our network enables devices to be collected from data to be collected from devices deployed anywhere on the surface and then distributed to end users. Supporting critical industries like agriculture, we've so far delivered millions of messages supporting end users for applications such as water tank monitoring, rainfall monitoring, and soil moisture. In mining, we support the increased efficiency and safety and environmental management for mines. And we also enable a range of applications across fleet tracking, monitoring their condition, and also asset and logistics tracking. We're on a mission to light up the world. We've provided a lot of illumination and information in Australia, and now we're heading into Canada and the United States. The system works by simply adding the Mariotta module to any product. And by integrating this module, a product is provided with direct-to-satellite connectivity. You can see on the left there. We take it from there, collect that data, bring it down via our ground station network into the cloud, and then deliver it to our customers, who then put it through their process to deliver it via a familiar front-end application, such as a web app on a mobile phone that their end users can gain access to. And we also provide the connectivity in the other direction as well for commanding and controlling and even firmware upgrades of the devices in the field. Our network and our products are built on a platform of deep technology. This tech is mature, it's proven, and it is protected across 60 granted patents around the world. The algorithms, signal processing, and clever techniques that go into the firmware that runs on that module enable it to last up to 10 years in the field on 2 AA batteries. So very long battery life, massive scale access. When a satellite is above Alice Springs, its field of view is the entire country of Australia. So you have many, many devices all communicating with it at once. Tricky problems to solve, and ones that we have solved. We also have inbuilt privacy and security and unique features such as the fact that nothing is sent in the clear. So all of the data is encrypted, and actually the device ID as well. So you can't snoop in on signals and track where they're going using the device ID. And it works everywhere, massively scalable and working everywhere. Our constellation provides global coverage. And we're backed by a super supportive and credible set of investors that you can see there. We support applications across a number of industries in asset tracking and logistics, agriculture, environmental management, defence, maritime, the list goes on, and providing timely information, cutting out the guesswork, and really enabling new business models. One of our makers, the Yabby, have developed a very innovative way of managing water levels of dams. So this has application in agriculture and mining to be able to get timely and accurate information on water levels, and also to manage the environment itself and check for the effects of pollution and things like this. Massively cutting down the manual effort and also improving safety in these types of applications. Our customers work with us and we support them with our products to achieve Myriota certification, where you can see that logo at the bottom there, so that they have the confidence that their products are connecting reliably and that they can go to mass manufacture. So very exciting time for us at the moment as a number of these Myriota certified products hit the market and are in the hands of end users. And it's just an amazing feeling to know that that data is out there and being used by the end users and having such a hugely positive impact on their business and their operations. Another maker that we work with is Goanna Ag. And I'll let John from Goanna Ag tell you about the innovative products that they're developing.
Every drop of precious rain matters. Rain grows the food we eat and the clothes we wear. Introducing Go Rain, the smarter, cheaper remote rain gauge. Clever by design, everywhere connectivity. Go Rain from Goanna Ag. Powerful insights from across your farm, right at your fingertips. Easy and simple, so you can connect with your rainfall like never before. Visit goannarag.com.au today to learn more.
Our product suite includes the module. It also includes a sense and locate device, which adds that next layer of hardware around, provides the enclosure. You can bring your own sensor, integrate with the sense and locate, and that cuts out a lot of the hardware development for solution providers that perhaps want to focus more on the software. We also have the Myriota Developer Toolkit, which includes the hardware that's necessary to get up to speed, test in the lab, take the device outside, and accompanying that, the software development kit that makes it really easy to bring your products and services up to speed quickly, ultimately connecting through to the Myriota IoT network. And the ways that we work with our partners are for the development of the kinds of devices that you've just seen there, and ultimately bringing those together to form solutions, again, like you've just seen there, where the end user has the answer that's making a difference to their business. Also for solution providers, we provide the sense and locate device for them to bring up solutions and cutting down on the hardware development there. And then ultimately delivering that really important, insightful information to the end users via the Myriota network. And for anyone that has an application in mind and a need, of course, we will readily connect through to our partner network to provide those solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, and thank you, John from Goanna Ag. With over 20 years in the technology and telecommunication industry sectors, combined with an interest in leveraging digital technology that create great outcomes and experiences, Antonio is passionate on how digital technology provides us all with the opportunity to think differently about how we impact people's everyday lives through transformational innovation. Antonio.
Thanks, Steve. That's my name spelled wrong, actually. I didn't realise. But I don't have any slides, so I'll just talk for 10 minutes. And and I'll keep an eye on the time, thank you. What I want to talk about firstly in this first part is Sage Automation, having a deep history in the South Australian economy, and then also talk about the Sage Group, which some of you may not know of the different companies under the Sage Group and how we go to market in most recent times. So, not sure if just a show of hands, who's been to Sage up at Tonsley? Okay, a few of you. So if you walk into our foyer, Sage Automation, we have a storyboard that showcases our history. So Andrew Downs is our founder, quite a popular person around the traps. Started the business in 1994 in his back shed, moonlighting while he was working at Bridgestone, the rubber factory on South Road, which I think now is a Bunnings from memory. So Andrew started, and then obviously was kicked out of his back shed because it was too noisy. Council didn't like it. Set up a workshop, and today has grown to over 500 staff. So it's one of those fairy tale stories that starting in your back shed and growing the business to quite a significant number of employees in South Australia, of which a couple of hundred of those are based here in Adelaide. And the remainder are scattered around the country and in regional sites. So Sage Automation, for those that aren't from the industrial space, my background's not industrial. I've only been in the company for 2 years, so it was a bit of a steep learning curve for myself. If you think about the water you drink, the food you consume, the wine you drink, there is an electrical function or process that basically controls a mechanical function in a factory. So our electrical engineers are essentially the guys and girls that program, install, and deploy and commission the electrical control systems across a variety of industries. Our foundation started essentially in the automotive space, so Holden's, and then obviously the slowdown of the automotive industry in South Australia and in Australia. We ended up having to diversify into different industries, but the same engineering discipline in that electrical control space was applicable to many industries: mining, defence, energy, food and beverage, utilities, etc., etc. So now in South Australia, probably 30% of our business and revenues are derived from the water space, SA Water being a strong customer of ours. Transport, so when we talk about transport, we're talking about intelligent transport systems. So when you're driving down the road and you see those variable messaging signs saying ETA, 15 minutes to Hackney Road, that's basically some of our technology that we've integrated into the motorway systems. So another strong customer is obviously the Department of Transport. In addition to that, we've got energy, food and beverage, TWE up at in the Barossa Valley, massive amount of projects there. Now, one of the positive outcomes for South Australia is one of our key strategic pillars is partnering for impact. So as a system integrator, we are technology independent and vendor independent. So we do tend to play nicely in the sandpit with everybody. So we do encourage partners to approach us if you've got technologies that we can help integrate or implement in some of our key accounts. And we're working closely with my friend next door here, Matt, and also with Mariota. So that's the Sage Automation business, 500 staff, like I mentioned. We've also got 3 offices in India, Mumbai and Pune. So we've got a Sage Automation-like business in India, and we've got a couple of offices that are heavily focused towards skills training for the Indian population. And our partners, just to provide a picture of who our core partnerships are with, are Rockwell Automation, Schneider Electric, and Siemens, just to name a few. So I mentioned before about the Sage Group. So Sage Automation is the one that's got the long-standing history with us here in South Australia. So about 5 years ago, we acquired a company called Newcon Newcon is a digital business. It's a data integration business. So if you can imagine the amount of data that's created from control systems, SCADA systems, they end up sitting in a server somewhere. The 25-odd practitioners in the Newcon business are all about analytics, and making sense and gaining insights from the data that's created from these automation systems. So there's about 25 guys and girls around the country. About 10 sit here in Adelaide, and that's where all the sort of magic happens up in the cloud, machine learning, AI, all the buzzwords, and heavily focused towards industrial IoT and data analysis. We also have Skills Lab. So Skills Lab most recently launched a digital apprenticeship. I'm not sure whether you saw Minister Pisoni launch that. So if you think about school leavers, they've got a couple of choices these days. They can go to uni or work in retail or become an apprentice in a conventional tradie type environment. The digital apprenticeship takes the best and brightest school leavers that don't have sort of the initial intention to go to university, but essentially look at a digital apprenticeship that focuses on things like cyber, Industry 4.0, IoT, etc. And they get placed in sponsoring organisations for a 3-year term. The government subsidises their diploma in applied technology. They get paid while they learn, and then at the end of the 3 years, if their intention is to go onto a degree course, then they're open to do that as well. But it does give organisations access to the best and brightest from school leavers, say, year 10, 11, that have got a digital knack. They love coding. They've got some sort of mathematical competency, and it just gets them in and upskilled and gets them integrated into the workforce. And our last company, or actually a couple more companies, but last company is Embedded Expertise. Embedded Expertise is a recruitment. If you think about companies that are looking for embedding a engineering resource for 6 or 12 months, this company goes and sources them from a pool of resources nationally, and essentially rather than taking up a PM or engineer from our resource stock, we actually go and get a contracted workforce to help them along their journey. And most recently, last January, we acquired a company called Transport Solutions, TCS, and they do all the maintenance and road upgrades at intersections. So we see the future of transport, ideally a car connected, talking to infrastructure talking to the vehicle, making roads more safer. So that strategy around acquiring that company puts us in a sort of good position around the intelligent transport system. So that's how we sort of traditionally go to market these days. Customers don't tend to buy a control system. It's a holistic approach to transformation. There's quite a bit of change management. There's quite a bit of training. There's lots of data that can provide a lot of insights from digital and automated systems. And we think that collectively all of our Sage group of companies provide a turnkey end-to-end service to our customers across a variety of industries. And that's it for me.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Antonio. Apologies for the extra I in your name. Quite looking forward to Q&A, actually. Having my own technical malfunction. Right. Generally doesn't need an introduction, but quite chuffed to have Matt Pearson on stage as the co-founder and the CEO at Fleet Space Technologies, which has just launched its 5th nanosatellite, Centauri 3, also the mission director of the Seven Sisters Lunar mission, and founder and CEO of quite possibly one of the most exciting businesses of Airspeeder, the world's first electric flying car, which will have its own racing league. Matt Pearson.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I I actually sent Brooke my slides from a test day this morning, so there are no words on my slides. So this could get interesting. But I'll talk about fleet first. David's actually done a really good job of explaining a lot of what we do. We're Myriota's competitor. So we work, in the early days, we went into our shed, our founding story, me and Flavia, to build a satellite network without any technology. And we teamed up with Andrew. We got Andrew to help us kind of figure out, well, what technology should we build, Andrew? And now we're leaving that shed with some technology, and we're starting to work with the likes of Antonio, and that's really awesome to kind of see that phase of as we leave the shed, and I'll show what we've kind of done in that shed. Now we're working with customers like SA Water, SA Power Networks, Energy Queensland, Oz Minerals, bunch of the companies that are strong players in the apart from Energy Queensland, strong players in the South Australian scene, and this has been a really great place for us to build a high technology startup from nothing. And David, we don't work with you, but we think about you a lot. Yeah, so. This is Centauri 4, actually. So we just launched Centauri 3 from New Zealand a month ago, and it's gone through commissioning. Looks a lot like this one. Small, it's about 6U. It's gone through commissioning. Its radio's turned on. We're connecting customer devices on the ground with Centauri 3, and then Centauri 4 will launch in about 56 days. So I thought for this presentation I'd talk more about kind of the crazy stuff we're doing, the fun side of the business, rather than too much of the customer side. But there are some great customer stories evolving at the moment. Some of the team in test chambers working on, this is the world's first 3D printed all-metal patch antenna for nanosatellites. It allows us to kind of cram a whole lot more capacity into a very small space, which is kind of the big game that we're all trying to achieve with small satellites in the Australian space scene. There's a couple of them in testing. This is Centauri 3, getting ready for launch. And so, the most fun part of what we do really is, or at least to me, is launching stuff. We launched Australia's first 2 commercial nanosatellites in 2018, Proxima 1, Proxima 2, with Rocket Lab. Then with SpaceX, we launched, I always forget, was it Centauri 1, Centauri 2? Then with ISRO, the other of Centauri 1 and Centauri 2, and we just launched Centauri 3. And so, yeah, it's been this kind of amazing journey over the last few years. We started in 2016, and it's just been get stuff to orbit as fast as possible and prove out a whole lot of technology very, very quickly, and learn as we went. So the team's grown from 3 of us to over 40 people now, and we're about to raise our next round and hopefully grow to about 140 people in the next year. The other big fun thing for me is the moon, and Australia's got this big plan Australian-sized plan to go to the moon, and $150 million has been set aside to promote missions to the moon and helping NASA on the Artemis mission. So what we started to do is say, well, some of these IoT technologies that we're working with industry on Earth to solve these sorts of problems on Earth, has NASA ever heard of IoT, really? And we kind of said, hey, NASA, we've got this Internet of Things stuff going on. They're like, you mean we could have like smart fridges in the habitats? It's like, no, there's a whole lot of other stuff that we do in Australia with Internet of Things. It's not just smart fridges. So we're working on a mission we call the Seven Sisters, which is a consortium that's coming together around solving exploration problems. Basically, there's a big push at the moment around copper exploration, especially as the whole economy electrifies. And so people are looking for new non-invasive techniques on Earth to explore way more territory without drilling a bunch of holes, without exploding a bunch of things, which I think is good. And so we're looking to do the same sort of thing on the moon, where we connect huge arrays of sensors looking for mineral deposits, resources, water, so that you don't have to send very expensive astronauts and very expensive rovers. to go dig stuff up. You can explore first passively. And I think that's something that Australia can do really well. It's kind of the best, most cutting-edge stuff in exploration that Australia does, and we want to do it on the moon. So we're having a lot of fun there. And then, yeah, this is where I came from this morning. So I kind of raced, dressed in the car. I was covered in salt and mud from our salt flat where we're testing our, it's a performance electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicle, but everyone calls them flying racing cars. This is what we're building across the road from Fleet in Beverley. I think this is one of the most beautiful things I've seen. Our lead designer kind of took a little bit of Jaguar E-Type DNA, a little bit of a Spitfire, and kind of blended them together we said, if we're going to go and build a flying car, why build another taxi? There are billions of dollars being poured into the air taxi market. In Australia, if we're starting something new, let's focus on a niche that we can really dominate. There's a great racing history in South Australia, and so we thought, well, this is a great way to commercialize technology really early. It's a way for us not to have to worry about some of the big problems that the rest of the air taxi market, all these electric air taxis you've probably been hearing. I'm not sure if you're hearing about them yet. They don't do a very good job of telling their story, but there are a lot of air taxis coming. Andrew, there's a lot going on in the sector, billions and billions and billions being spent on electric aviation. The challenge in the industry is really, how do you build an infrastructure for all these air taxis that are going to fly around and take us to the airport? How are you going to deal with the noise? It's all right to have flying cars until your neighbor is waking up at 5 in the morning and taking off in his electric helicopter right outside your bedroom window to fly into the office. That's probably not such a fun part of the future that we're creating here. So they've got to figure out how to make those propellers whisper quiet. They're already 6 times quieter than a helicopter, but that's not really saying much. So those are the kind of, and then battery life is the other big thing. So infrastructure, regulation, battery life, noise are all problems that the air taxi market struggles with. We kind of said, we don't want to deal with any of those problems. I don't like any of those problems. I don't want to deal with them. What we're going to do is build a racing car. If it's noisy, great, it's a racing car. Can we make it noisier? Let's really amp this up. The batteries don't last too long because battery technology hasn't got that far. Great, we'll have pit stops and we'll change the batteries, easy. And as for regulation and infrastructure, we bring the regulators with us, and we set up a site where we have an event, and we race under their careful eye, which is what we were doing this morning. So it's just pretty. I've got 2 minutes, and these are renders, obviously. This is a concept model we built last year, and this is the real thing as it is now. This is the Mark III. We're going to go through the Mark IIIA, Mark IIIB, Mark IIIC, Mark IIID this year, and then next year we'll be on to this, which is the Mark IV. Yeah, and that's it for me. I'm having a lot of fun in South Australia. I got here about a year ago. And watch this space. We're going to do some fun stuff. Thank you.
I'll start from one end and work across. Obviously, South Australia's changed a lot in the past 10 years in opening up this hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. And we'll start with you, David. How have you found the change about leading cutting-edge technology out of South Australia?
Yeah, personally, I found it to be awesome and fantastic to be part of it. So in my personal journey, I've been in and out of industry and academia throughout my career. Actually went straight from undergrad, or even started working before it finished undergrad, then went back and did postgrad, and then joined a company, Coda Wireless, that are an industry leader globally in connected autonomous vehicles, so strong telecommunications background there. That back then, that we were a rare entity in South Australia to be taking deep tech, and I'm talking, patentable deep technology that makes a fundamental difference to the way that we can improve lives, in that case, vehicular safety and road efficiency. And what we've seen is other companies now taking that kind of template as well. And myself, I returned to UniSA, was the technical director on the Global Sensor Network program, which we then spun out of UniSA, Institute for Telecommunications Research, back in 2015. And so, the vision that we had 10 years ago, when Alex and I spun out Myriota, we actually made that decision years in advance of spin out. And we went about doing research that was, a premeditated commercialisation. So we knew and spoke to customers about what it was that they wanted, and it was all about the customer, all about the requirements for the customer and meeting that need, rather than a technology push of let's develop something that's really exciting and interesting and then find out who wants to buy one. And so that, that we're seeing more and more of that kind of approach. Look at companies like Ping and taking really innovative technology for sensing the health of a wind turbine. And then we work with them to provide the connectivity piece. So you're now getting that ecosystem growing where we're combining very clever deep tech from multiple South Australian organisations to serve a real user need and save industries billions of dollars.
Antonio, I see you can sit there and you can take a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B on the stage here and bring it all together to make it work. Have you found, and growing up, it was always Silicon Valley for deep tech and the most advances, and now it's Tonsley.
Yeah, so Tonsley, so we were the anchor tenant at Tonsley 5 odd years ago, I think. And there was probably, this is before my time because I've only been there a couple of years, but I was dealing with Sage when I was working for a telecommunication company that's not sponsoring you, the opposition. And there was probably tumbleweeds. There was probably us and maybe Siemens and the university that were there. So, yeah, there is a number of businesses. I think there's 1,600. The population's about 1,600 at the moment. So, combination of really innovative students. I can see, I think Colin's in the audience there, School of Robotics. You've got the TAFE, you've got industry players like Siemens, Rockwell, but it's a collaborative environment that they inspire ideas to be shared. Then you've got BAE and the Factory of the Future that's inspiring people to, have a go without sort of being, I suppose, confronted by the security/defence umbrella. So I think, Tonsley's a really good, cohesive, collaborative, caring and sharing environment. But I think, to your earlier question, I think what I've seen over the last 10 years is a focus on the human-centred design methodology. It's not about the tech. It's about understanding, well, what's the real problem, who's going to be the end punter that's going to use the technology, and who's got the most impact and the most gain out of the technology that's being deployed, rather than just throwing technology just for technology's sake. So there's always a human at the centre of everything that we do. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
Well, Matthew, you've only been here 12 months, so you only know South Australia as a place for satellites and Lot 14 and Tonsley.
Yeah, look, we did start Fleet in 2015. I wasn't here. I was kind of commuting from Sydney, so I got to know Adelaide gradually. But when we got started, it was very much like, why are you doing that in Adelaide? Like, why would you? And we kind of say, well, there are defence people and stuff. And now, I think our question to anyone the kind of general feeling is like, but are you going to be in Adelaide? Like, there is no other way. If you're going to build a space startup in Australia, why wouldn't you be here? It would be absolutely nuts. So I think that's going to be reinforced more and more and more. But certainly from my standpoint, this is a great place to do this kind of stuff. We've got a lot of sunny days, a lot of open desert to test my flying cars, and a very supportive, regulator growing up, and the space agency growing up right here. So it makes sense to be here. Wouldn't be anywhere else.
Andrew, BAE Systems has been here for a long time, helping with the PR status and bringing people in from around the world to fill jobs that weren't here in South Australia. Have you seen a change where now there are trained people on the ground that you can now pick from? Or is it still very much bring a lot in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think if I think probably about sort of 10 to 15 years ago, when we were coming out of the back end of the GFC and actually looking at the shift in thinking from GFC into sort of the 2015s across into the later parts of the last decade and now into 2020s, there's absolutely been much more of a focus on collaboration, helping other organisations in the same ecosystem as yourself. And I think when we start thinking about technologies and conversion of technologies into value for our customers, one of the things that's really coming through a lot more now than was previously, particularly with the program that I'm in. So our literally on a Gantt chart the other day, I put a milestone in 2084 at the end of, right at the very end of the program after the service lives of the platforms. That's where the project manager that's going to be actually delivering that milestone is probably 3 or 4 generations not born yet. And so actually, when we're starting to talk about technologies and technology strategy, it's actually just as much about the people involved in it as well. Inspiration, you talked about, that actually a lot of what we're trying to do is actually inspire people into those STEM careers, because actually that's what's going to create the technology that's then going to create the competitive advantage, that's then going to create unique things that happen in the state and in the country that actually allows us to stand on a world stage and not just be the best in Adelaide, where you might sell to 1-point-something million people, or the best in Australia, where you might sell to sort of 20-something million. If you are the best in the world at what you do, you can actually sell to the entire world. And that's, I think, where a lot more is being brought up in Adelaide now to try and support organisations to actually operate on that global scale that hasn't been previously.
Yeah. Antonio, just a quick one. With expansion, which Sage Automation has just kept growing, you've seen that supply chain, I know it's a couple of years, 3 years you've been there. Have you found that when you introduce something new, or you've got a new bit of tech or a new solution, do you find from a supply chain perspective, businesses come to you into South Australia or surround, like Tonsley is a great example, but are they coming to you? I know you're acquiring businesses for supply chain, but is it the tech and the solutions that are bringing the supply chain to you, or is that still a big problem?
No, so the partners come to us because we've got a long-standing history, a good sort of relationship with customers over many, many years. So, and they're trusted relationships. So I think trust is a big one. And partners that are entering into South Australia tend to sort of anchor themselves on a brand that is trusted within, you mentioned the ecosystem. So we do play in a sort of an ecosystem that's quite, it's a general, as a system integrator, like I mentioned, we're the glue that sort of makes things work, and we stick bits together from pretty much off-the-shelf type partners or, products. So they'll come to us because we are an integrator, so essentially independent. And our sort of core business and our revenue model is really professional services. So we make our money from our people. So if we don't get engineers utilised, that's a cost to us. So we need to make sure they're billable. So a lot of the projects are off the back of either a partner's got a good opportunity that they want to introduce us into, case in point, or we have got a unique problem that we can't solve, and they've got a unique offering in the market that we can sort of bring a customer to them as well. So it's a bit of a dual-edged approach, if that makes sense.
Well, I think, everyone, what I might do is put your hands together and thank you, David, Antonio, Matthew and Andrew, to have this panel all on stage together. It's pretty exciting in South Australia. So thank you very much. Thank you.